Are you aware that life science trainees have many career options? We find that trainees are mainly aware of jobs like research assistant and research associate, but not always of broad career paths in the private and public sector. It's important that as you carry out your training, you're aware of these different career options so that you can ensure that you are acquiring all the skills and doing all the networking necessary to be successful after your degree. In this short video, we will explore some different career options for the life scientist or health researcher. We'll explore data that tells us where masters and PhDs are after graduation. Basically, what jobs do your former peers hold? And we'll review some key opportunities in each sector of work: the private sector, the governmental sector, academic sector, and non-for-profit sector. When we meet with trainees, they're often somewhere between understanding what specific role interests them and what general sectors they want to work in. What may be helpful is to understand the range of career options that are available to you as sort of lying on a spectrum where the roles are really diverse. So for instance, you can see in this diagram, roles vary from those in research and development, to policy, to administration, to testing and compliance. And then it's about understanding that similar roles can exist across different sectors. As an example, research and development roles may exist in academia, in the private sector, but also in government. Let's start by exploring where others who completed master's or PhD degrees end up. What we'll present is mainly numerical data about career outcomes, but that's not the only data that you may find useful. So we also encourage you to find out about what jobs are held by former trainees in your lab or in your graduate program. LinkedIn can also be a good tool to start building your network and researching the current careers of professionals that have similar types of training. We'll start by reviewing 4 pieces of data that could help you in understanding career outcomes in North America, in Canada, at McGill, and at the Research Institute of the McGill University Health Center. Data from Stanford University Biosciences reveals that almost 50% of PhD graduates are working in academia, while 30% are working in private sector biotechnology companies. Of those working in biotech, 70% are working in research and 25% are working in business functions. That's a reminder that not all jobs, even in the private sector, are bench science jobs. If looking at trainees, only trainees who have graduated in the last 5 years, we find that over 65% of those in academia are actually in postdoctoral positions. A very small percentage of trainees by 5 years out are in research faculty positions. Similarly, the University of Toronto has recently made available the career outcomes of 10,000 PhD graduates. Looking at the outcomes from the Faculty of Medicine students, we can see that 53% are working in the post-secondary education sector after graduation, and 21% in the private sector, where 63% of those are in biotech or pharmaceutical companies. Almost 20% of PhD graduates work in the public sector, and that actually refers to jobs that are mainly in hospitals or in health services. At McGill, an older survey completed in 2013-2014 that looked at PhD outcomes shows what you might expect, that at 2 years after graduation, more are employed as postdocs than anything else. But of those that are employed, about 50% were still working for academic employers, 35% were working for the private sector, and 4% were working in government. The great news is that 91% of graduates feel very or somewhat successful in their role 2 years after graduation. At this point, you may be asking, well, what about the master's graduates and the postdocs? Where do they end up? Our own research at the Research Institute on career outcomes of trainees indicates the following. Between 18 to 26% of trainees with master's, PhD, or postdocs are employed in the private sector. A tiny percentage are employed by nonprofit organizations. A large percentage of master's students go on to work in the health sector directly. And we guess that might be either foreign trained MDs who are gathering a master's and then go on to work in health, or else professionals with other degrees who see the master's as a terminal degree for opening up new opportunities. About 12% of trainees with a master's, 18% of those who graduated from the PhD program, and 30% of those with a postdoc stay in the academic health research sector in staff roles. So that can include roles like research assistant, coordinator, research associate, clinical trials roles, or also technical roles. Let's summarize the numerical data and how it can guide us about career outcomes. In general, 20 to 30% of trainees move into the private sector. 10 to 15% work in the governmental sector, and 30 to 50% in the academic sector. Across all of these sectors, most former trainees work in some capacity in research and development, but that's not the only option. And numerical data, as we said, is only helpful to a certain point in guiding you about your career options. The stories of others may be more impactful, and you can also dig for more information about each sector to learn what roles may be available. And as you keep researching and digging deeper, you'll see more and more options and roles open up. We'll look at each sector a little bit closer to try to give you a profile of some of the specific roles in each. Government or the public service sector, either federally or provincially, provides staffing to government departments and agencies. People who work in government are responsible for the day-to-day administration and the implementation of government policy and regulations. Some roles might also be involved in planning programs or advising the current government. Just some of the roles that might be available in government include as scientist, as research officer, as regulatory affairs specialist, epidemiologist, or as a technical expert. And these are employed across a wide variety of areas within the government. Governments employ health, natural, and life scientists, as well as social scientists. Some of the key health and science departments or divisions of the federal government are these. So, the National Research Council of Canada, Health Canada and the Public Health Agency of Canada, the Canadian Intellectual Property Office, and the Canadian Institutes of Health Research. Other divisions within the provincial government in Quebec include Ministère de l'Économie et de l'Innovation, Québec International, les Fonds de recherche du Québec, Institut national d'excellence en santé et services sociaux, et l'Institut national de santé publique du Québec. The nonprofit sector is bigger and more diverse than most people realize, in Canada as well as internationally. In general, nonprofits are dedicated to furthering a particular social cause or advocating for a shared point of view. Charities are one kind of nonprofit organization, but they're not the only nonprofits. The kinds of roles that may exist in nonprofits include as program officer, manager, as research officer, or in community engagement or development. And these positions typically focus on promotion of health, science, or science education. There are lots of examples of not-for-profit organizations that are dedicated to missions of health or science education, both in Canada as well as abroad. So these are just a few of them, including Heart and Stroke Foundation of Canada, Canadian Cancer Society, as well as North American societies like the American Association for the Advancement of Science. Jobs in the academic and health sector include different roles at educational institutions, as well as those medical and research centers that are affiliated with teaching and educational activities. So here, as you gathered, the missions typically focus around education and research. You're probably familiar with the types of positions that exist, but maybe not all of them. So positions such as research assistant, research associate, but also within larger research institutes or universities as grant administrator, project manager, technology transfer officer, business development officer. Those employed in the academic sector, they might be employed by a researcher or employed by a research institute or by a university, and that also includes by colleges. Maybe most mysterious to trainees is the life sciences or private sector. We have a video that speaks about the different subsectors of work in the life sciences industry, and we encourage you to watch that video for more information, such as the differences between biotech and pharmaceutical companies, and what opportunities in contract research organizations look like. There are many different types of opportunities in industry. These include roles in research and development, in clinical trials and regulatory affairs, and in the business and commercial operations of life science companies that often have specialized roles like in sales, marketing, or in corporate consulting or business strategy. Are you ready to identify some career paths that interest you? Here's your homework. Research companies or organizations working in your area of interest or specialty. They can be not-for-profit, academic, governmental, or industry organizations. Select 2 to 3 job postings from these companies and ask yourself, what appeals to you about this job and what doesn't? In what ways might you demonstrate some of the traits they're seeking with your experiences? Are you qualified? And if not, what do you need to be qualified? For more information, more presentations, and videos about careers in the life sciences, follow us on Facebook and head to our YouTube site. You're always more than welcome to contact us also by email.